What is up, everybody, and welcome to the Football Boot Hour with me, James, and of course, as always, my co-host, Andrew. This week, we're going to be talking about Puma, why they're just so unbelievably messed up, and how we would fix it, along with, obviously, all of our normal things, such as your questions. If you are here live, get them into the live chat, and if you're watching on the edited replay, then please put your questions down in the comments and we will get to you there as well. So let's do the normal stuff first. Let's have a look at what was released, shall we? Now, I don't know if I prepared this particularly well. I may have forgotten something, but we're about to find out. Andrew, do you trust me? That is the question. Here we go. No, so there wasn't a huge amount, and I don't think any of it was that interesting, I think is part of the problem. So we'll leave the Puma ones, I think, until the end, because they all kind of tie in, or the ultras, shall we say. But the first thing I think we should probably look at is the Adidas boot, the Football Emotion Kings League boot, which I think took us all by surprise. I don't think any of us were expecting to get this.
Yeah, I mean, it looks pretty cool. It's just really, really wild. I guess the Kings League has gotten that big. I didn't think it was that big.
I honestly don't know. And the fact that it's only like 200 pairs and it still hasn't sold out. Like, I could go onto Football Emotion now and still get them. So maybe the Kings League hasn't gotten that big because they haven't managed to sell.
Custom boots might be a bit too far.
Maybe, like, I think they're nice. I think they're really nice, actually.
Great.
And they've got little kind of Kings League branding on them and things like this.
On the heel and stuff.
Exactly. I think it's a really nice boot.
It's really tastefully done. It's just really weird.
Absolutely. I think it is just a bit weird. And I made the point that I thought that with it being a Football Emotion exclusive, maybe it wasn't going to do as well because like, they're probably really reliant on a Spanish audience to buy that because I don't think they're a hugely well-known international retailer compared to some others. But our friend Pedro did point out that, you know, they managed to sell out of the Memory Lane F50 very, very quickly, and that was far higher numbers than 200. So there's just something that's just not clicked. Despite the fact they look great.
That Memory Lane F50 had a story to it, though.
This is true.
And they
had a lot of hype from other releases as well.
Yeah, it was in the middle of all these releases, and Benzema wore them, and they made a big deal about this being a specific, thing. So
yeah, so maybe, I don't know, maybe it just wasn't enough on the marketing side. I think it's cool that it's an AG though. Like, we don't get many limited edition AGs.
Yeah, because I guess Kings League is all in AG, so
yeah, I think that's pretty cool. So without, I suppose, dissecting the marketing process of that boot too much, where would you rank it?
I'd probably put it in good.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah. I think that's where I would.
It's good, but I mean, it's just kind of a bizarre release.
I think that's very fair. Very, very fair. So before we get to the ultras, let's have a look at I feel like this was another random out of nowhere drop. This camo future.
So I talked to LJ about this.
Okay.
And Puma's doing a fundraising event for veterans in America.
Okay.
But he got an email from them, and my volume is super low apparently, and maybe I should get up to the mic closer. But yeah, he was like, none of us would have known any of this if he didn't check his emails to see what Puma had sent through. It's not on any
Ah,
of that marketing stuff or anything.
okay.
And I
I
guess it's a
probably have
colorway
that
just
email
for,
somewhere. I just
yeah,
didn't see it.
it's a colorway for Weston McKinney to wear. And like, again, it like kind of leans into the military theme, but it doesn't explain why they did it. And it's so stupid that it was kind of like hidden from everybody.
Yeah, boots with a story are always a win, really.
Hmm.
You don't get that many of them, so like if you have a story to tell the story, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, I didn't get it. I do get it a little bit more now. You know what my thought process was? My thought process was simply Puma always drop a camo colored future. You always get a camo colored future. Like they just love doing a camo colored
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
So yeah, I honestly, I'm not entirely sure with that one. I think that's
Yeah,
just Puma messing up again.
yeah,
I also don't love the boot. Like I don't
yeah.
think it's great.
Hey, guys, how's my volume now? Is it better? Just checking.
Do let us know. Do let us
Yeah.
know.
My volume fine for
Um,
you?
it's grand for me, but I think everything kind of adjusts a little bit for me and you hearing each other. So I can
Uh-huh.
always hear you fine, and you seem to always hear me fine. But
Yeah.
it sometimes doesn't doesn't work going
Volume
across
is good.
to the live.
Okay.
Nice,
Okay.
we are on a win. Okay, so with that somewhat unnecessary Puma random release, is it meh?
It's meh.
Yeah, seems fair. Okay, in the meh we go.
Hmm.
Now, next up, we have something that I'll be honest is absolutely infuriating me. I am far too. I am like I can't. The word has escaped me, but I am just far too upset about this. That I'm way more upset than I logically should be.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a thing, so we're just gonna go with it. That's the image I want, not that one. That one's low quality. And we have these two releases,
On
both
the
ultras,
same damn day.
on the same day in the same silo of the same boot in a same black base with the same accent colors,
Mm-hmm.
just done slightly differently. And
Mm-hmm.
I, it's so dumb. It's so dumb.
It's so
Like,
dumb.
I understand they're
This
doing
is why
the
Puma needs to be fixed.
exactly. So this is kind of the inspiration for this particular podcast was this pairing of boots right here,
Mm-hmm.
because it just got to the point where I was like, this is stupid. I want to talk about this.
Mm-hmm.
I actually, funnily enough, there is somebody who was in my comments section maybe yesterday, or sorry, today, and this was just after we decided to do this, and was like, "Oh, how do you think you'd fix Puma?" I was like, "Mate, you are in for a treat. Here we go." I did give him a response, but this is essentially it.
Mm-hmm.
But so I understand with the F1, they're doing. I think this is dumb as well, but they're essentially doing race day colorway. So this is for the
Cool.
Las
Yeah.
Vegas Grand Prix.
Mm-hmm.
And they did one for the Mexico Grand Prix. We've had
Mm-hmm.
multiples. I think doing one for every single race day, I know they're not doing it for every single one, but like race days back to back or race weekends back to back is just stupid.
It's
Like
over the
it
top.
makes no sense and it is too much. It is literally a weekly release of the Ultra, or at least a bi-weekly release of the Ultra. I do really like this colorway. I think it's
Yeah, it
very
looks
nice.
awesome. But like
It's just
this could have been done at any time. It could have
yeah,
dropped before the season, said, "Hey, the F1 season's coming up." Doing
exactly.
it back to back races is stupid. And like, I guess I'm guessing that's the volume signature of the cars and stuff like that, and various
Exactly,
parts.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But like, and then here's another thing: it's not carbon fiber and it's F1 inspired. Like,
Every time.
I get
Every
that.
time.
I get that you want to try and reach more people, but honestly, for limited editions like this, the Senna, this one, the
The
Mexico Grand
Mexico.
Prix one, all of them should have had carbon fiber bottom.
Yeah.
Make them super limited edition. You're more likely to sell out. Yes, you won't make as many pairs, but you're more likely to sell out.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then
I don't think any of these should have dropped into sale, and they all will.
Yeah, they will. The Pulisic one, I mean, it's again, it's cool. Why on the same day? I have no idea. Like, it's been a while since he's got his own colorway, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think my issue here is like the same day using the same basic colors. Like it's just stupid. Like if you're insistent on releasing the F1 one in line with the Las Vegas Grand Prix, and therefore that has to release there, why is the Pulisic one releasing the same week? Surely that one could have been moved or pushed to a different point. It baffles me. It really does. But neither of them are bad-looking boots. They're just stupid releases.
I would wear both of them, but they're very stupid releases.
100%. 100%. So with that in mind, before we get into actually fixing Puma, where would you like to rank both of these boots?
I love how both of them look. So because I love how both of them look, they'll go in meh.
I'm okay with that. Like,
because if they didn't look good, they'd probably be in just the lowest tier.
Yeah.
Because it's so stupid. It kind of reeks of arrogance as well. Like, we can get away with this.
If I get one more F1 release this year and it's not carbon, I don't care what it looks like, it's going in the bottom tier. I've given up.
Yeah.
So that is our rankings for this week. So I will just end that bit there. You get to see our faces in lovely full screen. And we will just say hello to the people in the chat. Alan Diaz is here.
Hi.
He's a regular. Thank you, Alan. Boot Zone, one of our Boot Wizard members, has joined us, as has Matthew. He is also a Boot Wizard member and is here with us as well. We have Chris's Footy Kicks in the house. Dr. Astute, very nice. JH and Josh Tossell has more incompetence than arrogance on the front
that's
of
a fair point.
Puma.
That's a fair point.
Very fair point. Proper boots in the house as always, and as always appreciated. So let's talk about what we've been wearing this week before we jump into the full topic and what we've been doing. What's on the table this week? You've just dropped your Yatagarashi review.
Yep, and I wore them last night. I'm still coming back from my knee injury. It was must have been really funny watching me run around last night because my knee started hurting, so I was kind of like skipping across the pitch. So and at one point, the guy who runs the team was like, Andrew's knee looks like it's hurting. And I'm like, it's not hurting, it's just difficult to run. So I came off after playing like 20 minutes, and I need to do more muscle building on my left knee. So we'll get there. We'll get there.
But you did get the Yatagarashi 2-year long-term review up, though.
Yeah, I did. And people kind of been fed up with my Instagram because I watched all my likes and views go being from up here to down here.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
people
that
are
is
just
not
kind of
ideal.
No, I think. Yu's here. I think what's happened is, one, people got fed up with seeing black boots constantly, and two, the algorithm has changed again.
Again, I've kind of given up trying to work it out. I don't even post on Instagram that much anymore. I need to do more, but Instagram for at least the last 6 to 8 weeks has been giving me and taking away subscribers on almost a day, followers on almost a daily basis. It's very funny. I was like 26,000 subscribers, and then I was 24, then I was 25, now I'm down at 23. Like, it just seems to be giving me them back and taking them away again, because it's not showing me any new followers. It's just my number just keeps fluctuating. It's weird. Bless you, Instagram. But that's where we're at. But yeah, the your Yatigarashi review is well worth a read, so please do go and check that out, everybody. And if you haven't yet, go and show Andrew's Instagram some love also. This week I have mainly been on the grip socks again. My grip sock hoard has been building. So here are the grip socks that I have been testing, looking at, or reviewing this week. I have done the Viper 5 Venom Grip, the Go-Go Gold, the Close Mate from Amazon, the WeFoot, the Technigrip, the Apex, the Boot Chamber socks, the Skill socks, the new Medi Captain, and the Pure Grip Socks Elite. These have all at some point or another been considered in either wearing, testing, buying, or actually filming the review for. So it's been a big grip sock week. However, at the same time, these arrived. So I got these from Unisport in the sale. I had a little bit of a discount as well from when they messed up my F50 order from the very first purple F50 colorway. So yeah, I used my discount. I got these at like €80, I think, something along those lines.
Good deal.
So I thought that was a pretty good deal. I've not really done enough testing in these. I've kind of worn them a little bit. Like in just previous, I was like, you know what, they probably deserve a proper test, and at that price, it seemed like a good one to go for. So I picked them up. The only thing that upset me was the fact that I could have got the white ones at exactly the same price. I just didn't have them in my size. So I had to go for the silver green.
You had to get a boot that was non-white.
Says the man who's taking pictures of too many black boots, apparently.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like these. I've liked them before. I do have a question for you. Now, I know I read it in your review, but I'm wondering if you kind of have other thoughts, maybe further down the line or something. What are your thoughts on the heel on this one?
It's okay.
Yeah?
I liked it a lot better earlier on, but going back to it, it's not as good as I previously. I'll say this. For first effort, it's pretty good, especially since the designers are coming from Nike of all places. And Nike does terrible heels.
Yeah, I agree that I think for a first effort, I think it really has a lot of good for a first effort. But there's something about the heel that's not really agreeing with me, and I think it's shape. Maybe shape combined with that like real minimal padding. So yeah, it's just something. It's the main thing I've kind of noticed that doesn't really vibe with me, shall we say? And I do find that there's something about. I'm probably not going to touch on this too much in the review because I do think it is a personal foot shape versus boot thing. But I find both of the Skechers boots, both this and the SKX, have a weird shape for me. The shape isn't quite right, but I think that's potentially just my foot shape versus the boot. So I won't make a big deal out of that because it doesn't seem like the right thing to do.
Fixed with the 1.5, apparently, according to Josh.
Yeah, so I haven't got the I haven't had the 1.5 of the SKX or the Razor yet. But one of the reasons I got the Razor was so that I can get the 1.5 and do a comparison. And I'll do the same with the SKX. Apparently, the change in the SKX is a lot bigger than the change with the Razor, which makes a lot of sense. Because the Razor doesn't seem to need a huge change, just tweaks, whereas the SKX needs a bit of an overhaul, in my opinion.
Oh, Dr. Astute, thank you for becoming a member.
Dude, thank you so much. That is very appreciated. Welcome to the Boot Wizard membership channel. If anybody else would like to join, you can do so right there. You'll be able to see all of the perks and benefits that you do get, including if you are starting 11. There is now massively early access to loads of videos. And this isn't necessarily a Football Boot Hour thing, but a plug for the Boot Wizard memberships. I now have 25% off Technigrip grip socks, 25% off WeFoot grip socks, and 20% off Apex grip socks for starting 11 members, which this is a bigger discount than anybody else is offering anywhere on the internet. So if you're looking for big grip sock discounts, I negotiated those with those brands. I've got more along the way. The starting 11 membership is one to go for. You can actually end up offsetting your membership with the discounts if that's something you're looking for. But Dr. Astute, thank you so much. And that is really, genuinely, really appreciated. It makes a huge difference to the channel. Chris Pottle has joined us. Hello, Chris. Yep. Thank you very much for jumping in the chat. You don't have to apologize for being late. We're late every week too.
Yeah, seriously.
So now that we have gone through all of that, we should probably jump into our topic of the week. How are we going to fix Puma? Yeah, and Andrew and I are going to say Puma completely differently through this entire thing. So depending on which end of the spectrum you sit, you're covered. We're covering everybody here. So where do you want to start? What maybe the biggest problem, or like do we want to go through each individual boot and kind of work out what we're doing?
Well, I think the biggest problem overall is just the constantly chopping and changing of models and stuff. Like,
so they essentially have their life cycles are too short. Is what we're saying.
Some of them, I'm very surprised. Like this future has lasted as long as it has,
especially considering it's terrible.
Yeah. So, but like, I mean, it seems they've gotten better, but like, I'll only trust them if they like actually make it to 1 year, 1 full year of not releasing new models.
Like,
there was a while there.
That future came out in January, didn't it?
It did. Yeah.
So yeah, we are
dev team in football, Josh. That's basically.
Are they though, or are they just do it like? I feel like while it is like, you say busiest development team, well, they're not actually doing anything. Like half the time, it's just like they moved the power tape and made a significantly worse boot on the future. And you know what? It's probably a fair point. If you gave them more time, they'd probably come up with something good.
Possibly.
The Ultra is a great boot. I really like the Ultra. I said this to someone earlier in the week, and I'm pretty sure I would still stand by this.
What's up, Alex?
That the Ultra is the best pure speed boot that was released this year. I think it's a better the F50 Messi, of course, are great football boots, but they're not necessarily what you would look for if you're looking for like a pure speed boot, right? That kind of sole plate doesn't really offer that. The Mercurial has kind of lost it a little bit with the kind of wider shape, maybe the upper, and I think the Ultra is just a better football boot than that generally. I think if you're just looking for a pure speed boot, the Ultra is maybe the best one that released this year. And they're managing to kill their own boot by just releasing 800 colorways.
Yeah, you're never going to have sell-through if you're just constantly selling or bringing out new colors.
Way to make me
you'll
not
have
care.
A lot of colorway ideas. Like, that's cool, but like spread it out or something.
I think it's telling that you can go onto Unisport right now. They're having a big sale, and you can pick up the Ultra Carbon for about 150 euros, and you can pick up an Ultra for around 120 euros. Like, that's an insane discount for a boot that really hasn't been out that long.
Yeah. I found, now it's the release colorway, but I've already found they look like they've maybe been worn twice. But I found a secondhand pair of the, I was about to say Evo Speed because people are talking about Evo Power in the chat. But I found a pair of the Ultra for like 75 euros.
Yeah.
And it's just...
That's not surprising.
I mean, yeah, they shoot themselves in the foot constantly.
I think... So I want to say hi to Alex Martinez, who is also one of our members. So thank you, Alex. Thank you for joining us. Alex, you've missed rankings for what came out this week and also for what we wore this week, but you are into the main topic. You are just in time, my friend. And our good friend, Andrew, who is usually on here with 2 different accounts, reminding people to like the video and also a member. Now, Josh here says, found the only other person who likes the Evo Power. Oh, my friend, you
No,
are in good company.
we both love the Evo Power.
Yes, we love the
Noah
Evo
loves the
Power.
Evo Power.
Yeah. Actually, this is how much I love the Evo Power. Andrew just bought a pair of Evo Powers for
I
me.
forgot to ship them yesterday.
It's all right. There's no rush. So
Yeah, I found the pink and blue ones,
so the
and
tricks pack.
the tricks pack with an HG sole plate. Look like they've maybe been worn once or twice. The upper is
Yeah.
like in perfect shape. No peeling, nothing.
So that is how much I like the Evo Power. I just bought a pair. And Andrew helped me find that pair of Evo Powers. And the fact they were the tricks pack is like the pièce de résistance for me. That was the real seller, the real kicker. And the fact that I comfortably paid more for those. I didn't pay a huge amount, but I paid more for those than I would have had to pay for a slightly used pair of Ultras. It's kind of mad. So there's a lot of Evo Power, Evo Speed kind of talk going on. So let's give this some structure rather than just ranting about Puma, because we could do that for about 2 hours. Let's look at each individual line, what we would do with it, and then we'll come back to an overall kind of strategy for what Puma can do. So let's start with the obvious one, as we're talking about Evo Speeds and Evo Powers, and let's look at the future. It is generally not a well-loved football boot. Nobody seems to really like it, despite the fact that colorway you have in your hand is glorious.
Yeah, they make amazing colorways for this boot.
Yeah.
It's such a shame that it's like one of the worst Puma boots for the last several years. You can see what they're trying to do. It just didn't come off at all.
I just don't understand how anybody put that on their foot in testing and went, yeah, that's the one.
I'd argue, given the spate of their releases, there wasn't a lot of testing going on.
There wasn't a lot of testing done. So what would we do with the future is the question. And I think the pie in the sky answer, the thing that I really would like them to do, is to kill it and bring back the Evo Power, because I think it fits their lineup. They have their Ultra as a speed boot, they'd have an Evo Power as their power boot, and then they'd still have the King, and we'll get to that as whatever they want the King to be. But I think bringing back the Evo Power as a power boot in that marketplace, I think suits the current market. I think it's a perfect thing to do, and I think they could just re-release the Evo Power. I'd buy 10. Like just re-release the first one, and I would buy 10 of them.
Definitely take it around the back and put 2 bullets in the back of its head. But yeah, they just need to kill this and start over. I will say, I know why they won't do that, and it's because this is knit.
Yeah.
It's a pure knit upper, and everybody has a knit boot right now. And if Puma doesn't, they don't feel like they're part of the gang. But the thing is, Puma's always kind of done stuff differently, and I'd argue
I think that too.
That's always been one of their biggest strengths. Is that they're the biggest company to just go their own way.
Absolutely.
So they should go back to doing stuff like that.
I think you could make an argument that, so I know that the King is synthetic, but they're trying to make that leather, right? But you could argue that they don't have a synthetic boot, like a proper synthetic, the way a lot of other brands do. So like that could be an Evo Power, that could be an Adapt Light or something like that, instead of having knit. But it could come back to something we speak about a lot, is the fact they've invested in this knit technology. It gets cheaper and cheaper every time they use it. So probably from a purely financial point of view, it makes a lot of sense for them to just continue to use the knit.
Look at Addy brought back the Hybrid Touch and how popular that's been. They just updated the Hybrid Touch 2.0, like the Adapt Light. Even now, like that original, like getting yours in, it's just like, oh man, I completely, like, I knew how soft they were, but I completely forgot just how stupidly soft that upper is. And it was still synthetic. It was still durable. It was thin, but had the right amount of padding in the right places. It's just like,
here's a claim. I would take the Adapt Light over the Hybrid Touch.
Ooh, that's a bold claim.
It is
In
a bold claim.
terms of softness, yeah, it's softer than the hybrid touch.
It
I
doesn't
think,
hold quite as well. There's not as much
yeah,
stability in it.
yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah,
for sure.
yeah, yeah. That's why I think that's one of the I think that's one of the reasons why they started changing it so much from the
Mm.
original formula was stability wise.
That
But
seemed to
like,
be what they did between the 1 and the 2, isn't it? The
yeah,
original and the 1.2. That seemed to be a
hmm
big stability shift and maybe making it a bit thinner, and they kind of messed with it a bit too much there.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But I mean, that could have been solved by just like on the 1.3, they had those lines on the kind of fattening
Hmm.
the midfoot and stuff, and like if they kept the same material and just did that, they would have been fine.
I
But
really
a
like
new
the 1.3.
generation, yeah, the 1.3 is good. It's the like the purple one, the upper was fantastic in terms of like getting that extra little grip on the ball. But the problem was it just wasn't anywhere near soft.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, I think the 1.3 was a great boot. Something that I would still wear now.
Hmm
I am not sure here. Yeah, hold on. I'm just looking at Josh Tossel's comment here. The Balotelli Adapt Light was a joke. I never had it. Was it different? You probably know better than me. Was the Balotelli Adapt Light
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
different?
It was.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
More padded. Inline boot had so much extra structure. Okay, so
hmm
that's kind of that's like a they can do it, you know. Oh no,
They just
so the Balotelli one had no structure. Is that
yeah,
what the situation was?
yeah.
Okay,
So they had to
was
just go the other way.
yeah, opposite direction. Um, but so
J-
to kind of bring us back a little bit to, to where we were supposed to be, as much as we are saying how good the Evo power is it
mhm,
really that simple? Is it the case of what would we do? What would the chat do for the future? We would kill it off
mhm.
and bring back the Evo power.
Yeah, it is that simple. I mean, even the Evo Power Soul Plate compared to this,
Yeah,
like it was it was really well balanced. Like I don't understand why they decided to go so aggressive with this. Like it just
it
doesn't make sense.
it doesn't suit the boot. Like
No.
I talk so much about, well, not so much, but I talk about this quite a lot in reviews, whereby I feel like sole plates and boots that match, and sometimes I will give praise to a sole plate that I don't particularly love because I feel like it suits the boot that it's on,
Yeah,
and I'm like,
yeah,
okay, that's a nice balance. You could say that. I think you could say that about the Messi F50. I think that's a
yeah,
nice
yeah,
balance.
yeah.
Whereas that sole plate, it's
No,
so stiff, it's so aggressive. Like, why is it on that boot?
like this 4 foot should have been more flexible, obviously.
Hmm.
And then these 4 studs here should have been round studs. If these had been round
Absolutely.
studs and you kept these,
Yeah, the,
like
the the
it would
diamond
still
studs are
be
fine.
it would still be plenty aggressive, but you'd actually have some pivot ability.
Hmm.
And then it would be an actual FGACT soul plate. You could probably get away with that.
Yeah, maybe make the studs a little shorter as well. But
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
like,
That stud length is pretty long.
mm,
You got to use the old enjoys is the Chinese forum that Jay from Boot Hype was always on, and they
yeah.
have an old trick where if your studs are too long, just file them down.
File them down. Yeah.
File them down.
Or as Ollie from the OC Boot blog would say, just get the Dremel out. Just get
Yeah,
the
get the
Dremel out and
Dremel out.
trim them down. But yeah, I think I think that's where we are with that particular
Yep.
boot. Some calls for the Power Cat. Again, that's
Yeah,
probably
I found a pair of PowerCat SL, brand new in box, tags and everything. €50.
what is
Yeah,
giving them away.
yeah, yeah.
Oh
So,
dear, I'm still very tempted by those Evo Speed SLs you showed me. I haven't. I can't do it.
the dragon ones.
Mm,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So calls for
€40 is hard.
yeah. If you're in the chat right now, so our future, our idea for the future is to kill it off and bring back
Hmm
an older line.
Yep.
So everybody in there, as much as possible, would you bring back? So just comment a single word. Would you bring back the Evo Power, the Power Cat, or what's the other one that's going on in here?
The V construct.
Nobody wants that back. Nobody is calling for that back. So let's just do Evo Power. Oh, somebody's put the Evo Power Vigor in there, which is a little bit different.
Yeah, somebody said the original Future as well.
I do like that boot a lot. I do like that. But let's stick to 2. So Evo Power or Power Cat. They're your 2 options. Let us know, and we will take that as a definitive poll as to what we should see.
We will send it to Puma and tell them the people have spoken.
Yeah, we'll send it to Puma and tell them, look, this is what the people want, or at least it's what the cool people who sit and watch the Football Boot Hour want.
It's all Evo Power.
And we got a full call on the Evo Power.
Yeah. Yuli says the V construct. Yuli, come on, man.
Yuli, I love you, man, but that's some nonsense. Oh dear. So that is the future essentially sorted. We're saying it's so bad we're gonna kill it off and bring back the Evo Power. The entire chat is saying Evo Power, with the exception of Yuli and his absolute nonsense on the V construct.
To be fair, the V construct was probably one of the most indestructible boots ever.
Durability was good.
With the nitro charge.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's move on to let's do the maybe not simpler one, the Ultra. So the speed boot line. I think this is an interesting one because, like I say, I think the Ultra is a great football boot. What would you do with the Ultra?
Just less colorways. Let it breathe.
Absolutely.
And okay, it's like, I was talking to some people. Here's the thing: if they'd done all these limited edition colorways for F1, for example, and made them carbon, and severely limited the numbers, they probably wouldn't fully sell through, but they'd sell through a lot quicker than what they're currently experiencing.
100%.
So they should just do that with a lot of colorways. Yeah, exactly. Less colorways, all carbon. Yeah. A leather Ultra. Yeah, they should do a leather Ultra.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, a leather Ultra is a good idea. Because they had like the Ultra Touch or the Laser Touch.
Laser Touch, yeah.
Yeah. They should have done that. But like the current Ultra is fine. Like they seem to have knocked it out of the park. Just way less colorways.
I am in exactly the same boat. I feel exactly the same way. I think the Ultra is a great football boot. I think they are they are suffocating their own boot by releasing so many colorways and literally giving everybody a combination of complete boredom of another Ultra colorway and also full on choice paralysis. There are too many Ultra colorways. And they're undercutting their own product by essentially forcing everything into 50% off minimum discounts.
Yeah, so now people know, like, oh, this color is cool. I can't wait for it to go on discount.
Exactly. Like that F1 colorway, as much as I'm not a huge fan of black-based boots, I really like that F1 colorway. I also really liked the Mexico GP colorway. I am confident I can sit here and wait for it.
Colorway is amazing. Yeah, but it's same.
I'm not
buying Puma until next year, but it's the same thing.
Yeah. I will sit and wait, and they're killing themselves. So I think the Ultra we leave as it is. We say less colorways, and we also say the carbon releases they needed to be more specific with. So do fewer of them, do each of them in less numbers. And I don't think any of the inline releases should have got a carbon sole plate, in my opinion. I think it should have only been individual special releases for carbon.
Yeah. Like they did that black and red one, which again is Puma's doing this thing now where like they're releasing the boots and then like a few months later they're like, oh, here's like the one that would have been in the past, the camo one. Like, you should have done, that should have been what you led with, like, a colorway that is not, like, come out with the Puma, come out with the Ultra, right? Come out with the inline colorways, and they go, here's the carbon colorway. And that
absolutely
brings us nicely to the idea that your Halo type boots should just be different colorways from the inline model.
Absolutely agree.
Like, this is what Nike's struggling with. This is what Adi's struggling with. Like, just make them different colorways. Do stuff to them that you can't get on the normal models.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. I am 100% on board with all of that. And honestly, is that really like pie in the sky thinking? Is that so ridiculous of us to suggest? I feel like that's actually logical.
But they don't do logical
I don't
stuff.
understand why they're doing it the way they're doing it. It's baffling to me. But that's where we're at.
Yuli, we're talking too many colorways. We talking about Preds and F50? Yeah, seriously.
Preds and F50s for sure, but I think the Ultra, the Future, like they are gonna be knocking on the door and surpassing those easily.
I reckon these futures are going to be like on the secondhand market for years.
Yeah.
Okay. This is a quick tangent, or well, we never do quick tangents, but anyways, I'm going to do it anyways. Like every single reseller, if you go on their websites, if you go into their stock, they all have like at least 3 or 4 different colorways of the Copa Sense.
Mm-hmm.
That is a boot that just did not do well. And like people don't stock Puma as much, so we probably won't see it, but these will be popping up everywhere. Maybe not this colorway, but like these will be popping up everywhere.
I have the launch colorway and I'm not looking forward to trying to sell it.
I'd be surprised if you managed to sell it.
Yeah, absolutely. So that covers the Ultra. So let's go on to the King, which is an interesting one. I'm not really sure. The other two, I kind of knew exactly what I wanted to do. Uh-huh. With the King, I'm not quite so sure, because you could have the same argument of, okay, we kill off the name. Sorry, pardon me. We bring back something different, something new. But the King is so kind of imperative, I think, to Puma. It's their only real, like, it's their only line that has weight straight from the name. Can you really afford to get rid of that? I suppose the obvious answer is make it leather again. But is that even going to fix it? Because they weren't selling when they were leather.
No, because
thoughts?
That first King model that was on Neymar's foot, like everybody loved those. Yeah. Everybody was talking about how great those are. And then they're like, wow, people really love this. Let's make something they hate instead. And they, like, I would argue the current Kings would sell a bit better, even being synthetic, if they hadn't gone through several iterations of just trying to make the worst leather boot in existence.
I do think the current Kings are suffering from the failure of the leather Kings, and also the failure of the last generation synthetic as well. It's going to take them time to rebuild the King.
But that's the thing, like, if that last generation synthetic had a better fit, a better last on it, like a better mold, it would have been fine.
Yep.
And like this current one now, it's like, oh, it's so much better, but like it looks so thick.
Looks like, clunky, doesn't it?
Thick with like 6 Ks attached to it. Or if you prefer, thick with 6 Cs attached to it. It is 6 Cs, yeah. It's unbelievably thick. And like, I know, like, I've heard the K better material actually gets pretty good after you break it in and stuff. But like, just even visually looking at the boot, who's gonna go out there and be like, yeah, that's the boot I want? Like,
yeah, I don't think it has a market. I think that's the problem. No. There is that boot is not marketed to anybody. There is not a person out there that is going, that's the boot I want. Like, you haven't got your old school, like, kind of like leather wearers, and you've not been able to convert any of them to the synthetic. They're not going to wear it. The colorways don't suit. It's not for them. You then got maybe your, younger people, or your people who are taking on synthetic boots and things like that. They're not picking it up either. It's in this real middle ground where it's not anything to anyone. Instead, you say boots and some things are trying to be everything to everyone.
Yeah.
This is nothing to no one.
Yeah, I'm sure like the designers and Puma are probably sitting there. Well, I guess it's not doing well, but I mean, if we could just get it on feet, but like that's not good enough anymore. Like that's fine. That's fine for Adler. That's fine for me to go just get them on feet.
Yeah,
That's fine. You can look at these and like, okay, that makes sense. But you cannot be one of the big three brands, or I guess big four because of New Balance, and sit there and go,
yeah,
well, if people just get it on foot, it'll be fine. Like that's not good enough.
yeah. I agree. The question is though, what would you do? Like, how do you fix it?
I would. They just need to kill it for now. Like, as much as that's the only boot that has weight to its name, they, like, the Ultra is fine now. The future hopefully will get fixed, but I'm not holding my breath. But, like, in a perfect world, the future is fixed, the Ultra does well, and then they just killed the King, let it rest for a while, take a long term view of its development, spend maybe 3-4 years trying to figure out, like, if they really don't want to go back to leather, trying to figure out, like, okay, how can we make this better?
Go and buy an Asics boot and copy it. Uh,
Yeah, they
so
really need to do that at this
my,
point.
my only way that I could think of, the only direction I could suggest that the King were to go in, if they were to keep it, would be
They
to
did kill the king before.
if anybody's tried the Puma King Pro, I think
Mm-hmm.
this is a better direction for the King because it would appeal to people who maybe did wear leather kings and things like
Mm-hmm.
this. Now, the Puma King Pro needs improvements in order to be a top level boot. It's great for a
Mm-hmm.
takedown. But if you were to, for example, take the same materials that are in the sole plate on the current ultimate level model, and put them on, that's fine. I don't think there's much wrong with the sole plate.
Mm-hmm.
Then you take the upper design from the Pro and you gave it a makeover. Obviously has to be improved from the K Better. Let's say, for example, you can take something Asics-esque, something
Mm-hmm.
X-Fly 5 limited, and you can make that the upper. You've essentially got it. Like, that's
Mm-hmm.
essentially all it needs to
Yeah.
be. And the Pro variation with the floating tongue, with the stitch pattern through the forefoot, with the slightly more quilted look, I think is the only way that you can go to look to save that
Yeah.
model in its current
Yeah.
form. Because you can't keep trying to produce this modern heritage leather, not leather boot.
Mm-hmm.
It's confused, and it's confused people, and people don't know what it is, and therefore people aren't going to buy it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Like,
it's it's really a shame too because like so they had the King Mirai over here, which was a really nice boot. Somebody mentioned in the chat they had a pair earlier and it hurt their Achilles, which is really sad to hear because I had no problems. I loved that boot. And then they moved it to synthetic. And to make it even worse, there's now two different models of it. So there's like a mid-range model and a high-end model, which they didn't need to do. Like Puma Japan did not need to do that. And then on top of that, you still have the Pari Mexico,
yeah.
and that has two different models.
Oh
And
my
that went
god.
from the leather to K Better. And the K Better on those, like I've heard people like say the K Better isn't too bad, blah blah blah. Like they just came out with newer models of that Pari Mexico. It's still classic look and everything, but like the initial release of the K Better in those, like it was just straight up garbage. Like
Yeah.
it was just ridiculously bad. So like even Puma Japan needs to have their heads knocked around because like their decisions, like with Puma Global releasing all these models and then Puma Japan having 4 different King models, basically. Like the part of Mexico is not the King, but it might as well be. It's a classic, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
They should have just had the guts to kill it when they stopped doing leather. Like
Yeah. Like, I
they should have just
understand why they didn't.
yeah. But the King line as a whole, as soon as they said we're not going to do leather anymore, they should have just said, okay, so because we're not going to do leather, we don't feel confident with where we want the King to be and what we've got available to us at the moment. So let's just take some time and figure out what we want to do.
Yeah. And I think they definitely haven't got there with the K Beta, especially not out of box. It's actually quite impressive once you've broken it in. But I even said in my review, which I think is out, it's either out or members can see it, one or the other. Either came out this week or it's out next week. That the K Beta is really nice if it's broken in, but it takes too long to break it in to get it to the point where you're like, this is really nice. It's not going to impress anybody out of box. And the fact that you have to go and put hours into breaking it in, well, what's the point? Like, it's
That's
not,
unacceptable
it's essentially not good enough. Yeah, it is.
Like,
It is unacceptable.
15 years ago, that would have been fine. People would have been impressed. But, like, now, like, again, like, okay, most people don't have access to ASICs, sure, but, like, you know, the Messi F50, for example, the Preds.
Yep.
You know, those are examples of boots, like, yeah, they take longer than they should to break in, but, like, they way less than what Puma's doing.
So here's a pitch. This is something we said this before anyway about Adidas, but I think it can apply here as well. So not before on this podcast, on last week's podcast. So the King, realistically, is dead. I don't think there's any way we can resurrect it in any time soon. So we kill the King off. There's no need to force another line in there. Yeah. So let's say in our ideal world here, we've got an Evo Power, we've got an Ultra with less colorways, and we can do, I think, one of two things. You either make an occasional drop of a leather Ultra. I think that's fine. You can that's your leather option, or a differentiated upper, or you can drop maybe one King in there, like a year or
once
something.
A year,
once a year you just drop.
Make it a hype drop.
Exactly. Maybe do something like the Puma King top as it is now, like that kind of retro King or something along those lines. And that do like this big once a year hype drop of the King. If you just want to keep the name going, and then you don't bring it back until you're bloody sure that you've actually got a product that is going to sell. And you know, I don't know, maybe have somebody like a massive name like Neymar launch it, and then don't mess it up. I honestly, I thought they'd nailed it when I know you mentioned it a minute ago, but I thought they'd nailed it when they had Neymar go into the King, had the return of the King kind of thing. That boot was excellent. Everyone seemed to love it. I was like, they've done it. And then they took Neymar out of it and everything and destroyed the boot.
And then they were like, oh, well, Neymar's no longer wearing it, so let's get rid of the only other reason why people would wear it.
That Neymar colorway was nice too. Nice.
Yep.
There we go. The Boot Zone Ultra and Evo Power with the other variant.
You could do a King with Neymar, and he wouldn't even have to be worried about wearing it because he's injured all the time anyways.
I was going to say, he'd never wear it anyway. Every time you make him a boot, he doesn't wear it.
Oh, he's injured? And then, 6 months later, whenever he comes back, he's not wearing it. It's like, oh, sorry, we got a new Neymar boot,
Footloose Boots has just made an excellent point in the chat here. Just said, look at the Puma King HG. Looks way more appealing with it having a tongue. Give me 2 seconds. I have the Puma King HG, so I'm actually going to pick it up because I do want to show it. So I will leave you all alone for just a second.
Silence. Peace. Just a rare moment of silence. You got to enjoy it. Especially when you have kids. Just rare moments of silence. Oh shit, he's back. Guys, shut up.
Okay, so I'm back. I hope I'm not interrupting. No. We have the Puma King HG here. I'm going to need to swap to the other channel. And it has the floating tongue, so kind of like I was talking about with the Pro. We have this HG sole plate, which is phenomenal, and it gives it's better balanced and slightly more flexible. It's better than what's on the actual boot.
Imagine that on this.
Yeah,
how much would that improve this boot overall just by slapping this different sole plate on it?
Do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to leave again because I'm going to get another boot, and I've got an idea. Hold on, I'll be back in a second.
I got him inspired to do mad things now. He's crazy. He's crazy. It is, I will say, it is kind of depressing to hear people like slam down these when I love the look of these so much, and I'm just not looking forward to playing these at all anymore. At least I'll look
Okay.
good.
Here's my pitch. If you were to keep the King, you take
Mhm.
this, which is the Puma King HG, and
Mhm.
you mash it together with this, which is the Puma King Pro.
Yeah, look at the quilting lines on that. That looks
Uh-huh.
so classic.
Like this, it just needs a little bit of improvement. Like it's not incredible, but it is a
Yeah.
takedown. It's €120 takedown.
Yeah.
And for that money, it's actually
God, that's still
fantastic.
sickening to say.
Yeah. But honestly, if you did these two and went like this, you'd actually have something that would be well worth considering. And I think people could really get on board with that. But yeah, there's my solution if Puma to keep the King. But honestly, I think the better idea is what we've said. Get rid of it, do a hype drop once a year, and just run off two silos with an occasional leather drop of the Ultra.
And doing that, what that does is it starts to build the name back up after it's been dragged through the mud for so many years. And then in future, you can come out with a King once you know you can nail it.
Absolutely. Yeah, Matt Burns saying there the Pro looks so much better. Yeah, I agree.
It does.
It is a really nice looking boot. I recommend it to anybody actually. It's €120 at full price. You can pick them up for kind of like 70-80 euros new on sale. I'd recommend it to anybody to try. This is actually the women's fit, which is fine. And I would generally recommend trying out, especially if you have any kind of like wider or higher volume foot, the regular unisex or men's fit, whatever they're calling it. I would recommend that, but it's harder to find. They've not really made that many of the pros. There's this one, and there's two women's colorways, and then just the white, blue, and red in the men's. I think they're the only ones I've been able to find. Okay. So we are. So that's us saving the lines of Puma. So far, we are reducing the number of releases altogether. We are increasing the life cycles. So what we're saying, like a 2-year life cycle on all boots. Yeah.
Honestly, every single brand should be 2-year minimum at this point.
I agree. I absolutely
think it's
agree.
Unacceptable that they aren't.
Yeah, I agree. And I think this is definitely a tangent, but I kind of understand what Adidas are doing. Adidas go and they go in a 2-year life cycle for essentially the same boot, and then they release a new one. It's similar to what New Balance do with their Plus models. So they do a New Balance Tequila V4 Pro, then they do a V4 Plus Pro. The difference with Adidas, and the thing that annoys me about it, is the fact that that is treated like a brand new boot. Like they try and build it, and it's all marketing, but they build it like a brand new boot and this new thing, and it's just not. And then it's just an excuse for them to release another 20 colorways instead of separating it out. That's why I don't like it. Really, I think it's unnecessary, really unnecessary. Like this current Predator that's coming up, what we've seen of it, it feels unnecessary to me.
Yeah. And I'm sure it's probably fine-tuned better, and that's fine, but still, they just didn't need to do it.
No, not at all. Or do like a plus, do something really minimal, minimal, just to tick it over, so that you're not doing a full new range of colors, a full new marketing campaign, all this kind of stuff. Anyway, so we've got 2-year life cycles. Yeah. 2-year life cycles, less releases. The future is dead, and we're bringing back the Evo Power. The Ultra is fine, just doing less colorways. The King, we are killing off entirely, maybe doing a hype drop. And the only other question I have is, and I don't think there's a problem here. Well, there is a problem here, but when we take the industry as a whole or the market as a whole, the pricing, like obviously Puma come in under Nike and Adidas, but still obviously a very expensive boot. Would you change the pricing at all? Pricing structure?
Yeah, drop the pricing a little bit.
Drop
I mean,
the pricing a bit.
Every single brand across the board has to drop their pricing.
It has got out of hand.
It's
absolutely
unacceptable.
out of hand.
Like, again, and people complain to me about Mizuno's overseas pricing. It's like, I agree. It's unacceptable at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was kind of unacceptable before. You could raise it a bit more. That's fine being a bit higher. But like, when you're 50 euros higher, well, not so much anymore because brands have been raising their prices so much. But like, you can't be that high.
No, like it doesn't make any sense whatsoever for me. So pricing should come down, but pricing needs to come down across the board. I think the distance between all the brands is fine, but as in like everybody needs to come down. Honestly, in my view, Puma need to come back down to that €200 mark. I think that was a sweet spot for them, for New Balance, for Skechers. I think they should all be hitting that €200 mark. Your Nike and Adidas's, you've got your €20 extra on that, your 220s, things like that. It's still obscene amounts of money, but it just doesn't seem like daylight robbery when Adidas are dropping boots on the regular at 280 to €300 a pair. I'm like, oh, the pain. It's ridiculous.
It's pretty difficult for us to pull off. But that's why we did that episode last week, is to like start pushing people to like, hey, look at, older boots, look at the used market. Like, there's so many good deals to be found.
Absolutely. So many good deals to be found. Coach Rossi in the chat here seems to be a huge fan of Puma in general, so at least there's somebody. Josh Tossell says £120 in 2004 works out with inflation to be £210 today. Not sticking up for it, but yeah, we did we actually did an episode at one point where we basically broke down the inflation of things. It's actually really interesting if you go back to, I think, 2022 and you look at inflation there, because obviously we've had huge inflation over the last kind of couple of years, and it's only starting to stabilize now. If you go back to then and you see what it should be, that's actually a starker difference. They've really obviously ramped it up more recently because of inflation. I do understand what you're saying, but I do think they're taking the piss, basically. They're absolutely taking the piss. And there's no other way of putting it.
Yep. Yuli's saying, with people complaining at big brands dropping leather, I'm surprised Adlerel, Lanzera, and Mizuno aren't making more sales. I mean, they'll get there. Mizuno's going to struggle because their pricing is just too damn high.
Absolutely. But yeah, I think people will start to move to look towards them. But these brands, again, it's the age-old problem, especially when you're comparing to like, your Nikes and your Adidas's. They just don't have the budget to try and compete for marketing space.
To tell people about like the fact they exist.
Exactly. I think there's a good question here from Matthew. Says, which reputable star would be sponsored by Puma at this point besides F1? Lol. But like, who would you put in a Puma boot, and who would you go? Because at the moment, it does seem like Pulisic is kind of like
he's become their main man, just by virtue of everybody else being hurt. They're trying to push Xavi Simons like crazy, but
they are,
or Xavi Simons, but that's.
I feel like, despite the fact that Puma seemed to go on a run maybe last year of just signing everybody, like, because Nike were dropping people like flies and Puma were just picking them all up, they don't have anybody at the same time. It's like they have everybody and yet nobody. They don't have that big bankable star. I realized they were banking on Neymar, and that's obviously all gone horribly wrong.
Yeah.
But if you look across the big players around the world, look at your top 3 men's Ballon d'Or players. You've got 2 Nike athletes and 1 Adidas athlete. I don't know what was beyond that. I only know the top 3. But you know what I mean? Like they've still failed to pick up that next big star. I even think that New Balance have done. See, this is the difference. New Balance athletes, I'm like, oh yeah, Saka and Sterling, and
They've
the
really
New Balance
invested in
athletes.
younger players. Like they invested in Saka early before
Very early.
got to where he was now.
Yeah.
And that was a gamble, but I mean, hell, it seems like New Balance's scouts could be used for professional team based on how they're managed to find talent. And it'll take a while, and they know that, and they're a big company, so they can do this, but they're investing smart.
Yeah, and I think that New Balance have done that. I think Skechers are trying to do that. I do like the approach Skechers have taken with some of their players. They're kind of they're a little bit kind of like your next tier down, but they've picked up quite a few. They're young, exciting players. I think they're very interesting kind of people that they've picked up, like maybe like a Langer and things like that. I think that's interesting. Whereas I don't understand. This is just the key, isn't it? I don't understand what Puma are doing. I don't understand their strategy, and it feels like they don't have one. They just went scattergun, picked up picked up anybody that they could that maybe Nike dropped, and were like, oh yeah, we'll have him, and have ended up with no big bankable stars. Now, I could be wrong about Pulisic because obviously, like the US market is huge, and he's their biggest name, right?
Yeah.
So maybe that is a genuine bankable star. He just doesn't feel like it to me. He's not obviously like Bellingham, Vinny, Mbappe.
Yeah.
He's not that player.
I think he's kind of gotten it back by how well he's doing at AC Milan, but his spell at Chelsea definitely hurt him and it hurt the Puma branding. So
for sure. And I think that I don't even know who I'd put in a Puma boot. I think they've suffered by losing Griezmann. I think Griezmann is a massive name.
Yeah,
he is a bankable star.
And the thing is, if he does wind up in MLS like is rumored, that's a huge missed opportunity for them.
For sure. I think if he ends up in MLS and he goes with like Kipster as his he's been wearing kind of prototypes of and various things like that, that would just be the worst thing to happen to Kipster ever, because they do not have a presence in the US.
There's no presence there.
No. They have Decathlon, but they do not sell boots in the US. So that would be a disaster for them. All of this kind of money and all of this kind of space and everything, and their biggest star is in the MLS. That would be an absolute nightmare.
Couple points here in the chat. Alex Martinez, honestly don't think a higher profile player is going to help Puma. Rudiger at Madrid is wearing the Magneticos and they still aren't super popular. Same with Fermin, Torres, and Barca players. Joss says problem with leather is the older consumers and boot enthusiasts like us want it. It's a narrow market. Well, overseas, yeah. Jake Singer, do you think the Tekela and Furon are differentiated enough?
I think that's a really great question, actually, and it's something that I think I have failed on criticizing New Balance about. So yes, I think they're different enough to get away with it, but they both use the same upper. They have the same upper material, and they're just presented differently. So I do think that they deserve a little bit of criticism for not differentiating them more. However, when you look at the boots and you wear their boots, they do feel different enough that I think they can get away with it. I think they can definitely get away with it, but I would love to see them do something a little bit different with maybe the Furon. I'd love to see the Furon go like synthetic, for example.
Wilder.
Yeah, like go big on the Furon. I think a really nice, like soft, synthetic on that Furon would have been lovely. Maybe like a Vapor 8 synthetic, like a
Yeah,
Tajin on it
yeah,
or something. That
yeah,
would have been I want that now. Oh, I want
yeah.
that. But that's a
Justin,
good
once
question.
Jack leaves City, he'll become the Puma poster boy. He's massively loved and he's handsome. Yeah, that's true. He just needs to get out of City and go back to being the Jack Grealish we saw at Villa.
This is true. There, he's a great shout. He just needs to not be at City. But yeah, so who? Yeah, he needs to. He does. He needs to go somewhere where he can just roam, be
Yeah,
his Aston Villa self, wear boots until they fall apart, and that kind of thing. But yeah, I think that's a good shout. But I think the fact that we're kind of scratching to find that big player. And while I do kind of agree with Alex Martinez's point that a high profile player isn't going to help, I think it has to be the right high profile player. So like, yeah, Rudiger wearing the Magneticos isn't making huge waves for Under Armour, but that's because he's a centre back. Like, I don't want to diss centre backs as a player who is completely devoid of flair. You have to have that attention grabbing player. That's why the big names are the Vinnies, the Mbappes, the Bellinghams. You've got to have that attention grabber with that swagger, that flair. Even like a Jack Grealish, for example, I think would be a good shout. But yeah, I think that's why Rudiger isn't necessarily moving the needle. It's because he's just not that player. It's the same reason that your centre backs just aren't it.
He's just a really weird guy as well.
He is a weird guy.
Like, yeah. Puma's got some good, like, they have, for Japan, they've got some good sponsored players. They got Ritsu Doan, they have Karu Mitoma, and they got him with Mitoma, like, super early, like, when I think it was before he even went to university. But, like, again, they're kind of middling, like, that's fine for Japan, but overall, they're kind of, like, middling teams. Like, no disrespect to Freiburg or Brighton, but, like, they're on the TV enough, but still.
Yeah.
And, I don't even think that's pushing the needle too much in Japan either, as far as sales are going. Just based on Puma sales, like, you really do need a big international star.
I like Jake Singer's suggestion here. It's obviously not a non-Puma athlete, but maybe they need to pay the big bucks for Musiala or Cole Palmer. I think if somebody can grab Cole Palmer, that is a shout. I think he's not big enough with Nike, and he's with Nike, who are willing to let people go for, like, if they can save a lot of money. I think that he's not big enough up the tier list with Nike to be looking at, like, signature boots and things like that. He's not that guy. He could be with Puma. Puma like, hey, we'll give you a signature boot. We'll drop a clothing line. We'll give you more money. Like, and Cole Palmer could be the guy. Sorry, say that again?
His star is rising exponentially right now.
For sure.
And it really seems like Nike does not care about him that much.
Exactly. The best they did was stick him in that that kind of silvery rising gem pack that they stuck a load of their, like, young up and coming talent in.
But then he continued to wear it into the Euros when everybody else had switched. And like it didn't seem like he was it didn't seem like they cared enough to be like, hey, do not wear those. You need to wear the current pack.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that would be a great shout if Puma could find the money to do it, and I'm sure they've got the money and they prize him.
Here's my hot take. They should just cut Neymar completely.
Yeah, 100%.
Drop him completely. Pay.
I agree.
Use that money for a big player, a big young player. Josh says he's not leaving Nike. Probably not, but you never know.
I think if someone turned around and offered, he seems like the kind of guy that if someone turned around and offered him a signature boot line with more money, I think I think he'd take it. I think a signature boot line would be the kind of guy that would, you know what I mean? That would kind of, that would appeal to him. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Lemzinho? You're right. Palmer is still wearing the 15s instead of the 16s. That's kind of how little Nike seem to care.
It's really funny as an aside on the 16s that I am being proven right in some ways because, well, on the lower levels. So like a couple of Derby players switched into the 16s
Mm-hmm.
and even ordered some. Like I saw they were ordering some from like resellers and stuff. And I saw the one match, and that's it. They're all back in the 15s now, all of them. And I've seen this a lot on the lower levels. Is a lot of players are dropping out of the 16s and going back to the 15.
It's an interesting one as well because the 15 isn't amazing in my opinion. Like it's
No,
good.
the
It's not
lockdown's
actually
better, though.
fantastic. It's not like the kind of X19 into Ghosted thing where like nobody went into the Ghosted. They either stayed in the X19 or they switched into the Nemesis. Like loads of people did that, and that seems it's a weird one. Although I made a comment to somebody today on one of my videos who's asking about speed boots, and I was saying that the more I break in the 16, the less I like it. I still think it's a good football boot, but it's not a boot that's really. It's not working for me, I think was my point. Is like that I am not going to
James,
go out and choose to wear that repeatedly.
Are you admitting that I was right?
No, I'm not. I'm still saying it's a fantastic football boot. But I'm saying that I don't want to go out and use that boot regularly.
You don't want to go use it?
No, I don't. No, I do not.
That's so weird. If only somebody had talked about this before.
It's it's a combination of the upper of kind of like the shape, like the width and things like that. And then the zoom pod is bugging me. Don't like it. Sits me up too high in the boot. Not feeling it. But anyway, Footloose boots. 15's lockdown was great. Hell yeah, it was. I absolutely agree. I'm beginning to think the GX2 is basically a Predator 18.1 with grip. No, sir. You are incorrect. No. I appreciate your input, but you are incorrect. That is not the case.
Trips, don't try the 16. It's a waste of money.
I almost don't want to try the 16. Get it on discount. There you go.
Shut up.
What's Justin saying?
Andrew, it's been too long since you've yawned. Can we get one of those currently?
Oh, let's not do that. Oh dear. Oh dear. For these boots, I'm only 6 hours in. I wonder if it'll lose any more responsiveness. It will.
Yeah, Julio was saying earlier how like he could bend his super easily now, like pretty much all over the place on the sole plate.
Actually, funnily enough, going back to Puma a little bit, that was my criticism of the Ultra, was the Ultra Ultimate, not the Carbon, that the sole plate softens up a little bit too much too quickly. It loses some of that snappy nature, and I think the way that the 16 is built with that kind of section to put cut out for the AirPod, the Air Zoom Pod to sit in, is at a detriment to its long-term kind of durability and snappiness. I think that definitely comes as a negative. It's a boot that it's a boot I need to do like a long-term review on, or at least kind of 3-4 month review or something like that. But I am up to my eyes in reviews that I need to get done and edited and out, that I just cannot put anything else on the list right now.
I finally ordered an Across.
Oh, nice.
And I was going to order it from a retailer, and then like somebody on Mercari I was watching a brand new pair there, and they dropped like 20% off the price they had. So I was like, okay.
Sold.
And I ordered them, and then waited several days, no communication from the seller. And this is like a highly rated seller. Like he's got loads of stuff in stock.
Yeah.
And finally last night at like 10 p.m., I got the notice that he finally shipped them. And I was like, 10 p.m.? What the hell were you doing all day?
No, this is where
Justin wants to know. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was going to say this is where I am with reviews because I'm old school. I still write everything down. So this is essentially my book. I have 3 pages like that of just
Jeez.
reviews, and it's not like I need to get anything for these reviews. I have everything here. It just needs to be done and edited and put out. I have 3 pages that look like that.
Jeez.
It is mad.
Justin's like, okay, let's address this. What would you change on the 16 to fix it for the 17? Well, I mean, just adding lockdown would probably be a smart idea.
Yeah, so I would
Getting rid of the air?
Yeah.
Dump it completely. It's stupid.
Yep, I agree. I would do 3 things. I would change the shape. So I would reduce the width and I would go back to something that is more kind of slim fitting. In turn, with the way that's built, I would add more structure to the upper to allow me to increase the lockdown. You know, it would be nice to see them do something like maybe bring back the a variation, like a modernized variation of like a flywire cable. That could be quite cool. I realize that's not something they want to do because they're obviously working on building everything into the knit. I get that, but you know, anyway. And I would completely ditch the air zoom, and I would go back to something like the thing that I always forget the name of.
Where you like
the anatomical sole plate where you sink
yeah.
down into it. That would be my 3 things. Which, yeah, more structure, slimmer silhouette, and no AirPod. They would be my 3 changes from 16 to 17.
Matthias, nobody wants the ace back for you, buddy.
Matthias, did you say this like a podcast ago or 2 podcasts ago? And are you trying to manifest an ace on the podcast? It's not going to happen.
Just buy an old pair, man.
Thank you for your comment.
Nike needs to decide once in a while what shape they're going for. They have some of the narrowest, most last boots on the market, and they keep making these boots with more and more volume. Yeah, their sole plate lasts are like narrow, but the uppers are super wide.
Yeah, for sure. What else did I say? Alex Martinez, would Puma benefit from having a rubber grip element boot? Take a stab at competing with Adidas with rubber elements? I would say no. I think that's
They kind of figured it out with the Evo Power. They kind of figured it out. Like the upper was grippy enough without having to add elements, and yet you had like a strike area.
I think having a grippy strike area and then those kind of like those foam pods, I think that's the solution. I don't think there's a need to go with the Predator-esque thing, and with the Predator being so big, I don't think you want to go up against that.
No, you don't. You want to make a slight alternative to it. You don't want to make a direct competitor because you'll get trashed.
You want to have a power/control boot that sits in the same space but isn't directly one versus the other.
Yeah.
Trips says, yes, the air zoom in the sole is pointless. See, I'm not sure I'm not sure pointless is the word. It does what it's supposed to do. It's just not just what it does, and what it's supposed to do are not a good thing.
That makes sense to me in the GX, for example.
Yep.
Makes perfect sense in the GX. And the Vapor, it's it's unnecessary bulk.
Yeah, it does add to the comfort. It's just not something that I want in that boot. Like,
I mean, they could add to the comfort by making a decent insole. But I mean, apparently that's beyond them.
I cannot defend that insole in that boot in any way, shape, or form.
It's so garbage. Like, come on, man.
Oh yeah, that was poor.
Yeah.
Replace the Tiempo with the T90 Air, says Footloose Boots.
That won't happen. It should happen. It won't happen.
That would be nice. And again, Hyung says air zoom in the GX and Tiempo would be good. Yeah, like it would work in both of those boots better than it works in the Mercurial, in my opinion. It does feel like they needed or wanted some kind of USP for the Mercurial. They were like, okay, we can't take you know what I mean, we're going to take grip knit across. That's not new. Where, you know what I mean? And I know they had the Air Zoom before, and they were like, okay, we don't really have a USP for that. We don't have a big thing we can write on the boot, you know. So it just felt like they went, oh, Air Zoom? Like, we need a big thing. It's like, you don't need a big thing. You just need a good football boot.
Yeah. And that's the thing, like, with the materials is, I mean, like, you could almost put shit on a stick and it'd sell.
Yep.
With the Merc.
Yeah.
Like,
People
you don't
will buy
need
the
to,
Merc no matter what.
Yeah. And I think the problem is they're making it overly complicated, and they don't need to do that. The Merc is always done best when it's not overly complicated.
Mm-hmm.
Don't add so much stuff to it. This is why the Vapor 4 and Vapor 5 didn't do great, and the Vapor 6 and 7 suffered for that. Like, they went more simple, and then, like, people are like, no. They finally fixed it with the 8 and 9, where they were like, okay, let's really strip it down. And that's what they need to do again, is they absolutely need to strip it down.
But yeah, like, let's say 8, 9, 10, 11.
11.
They're
12
all,
and 13 as well.
They're all fair. Well, I think, so 8, 9, 10, 11, I think, are very stripped. The 11's obviously got
down,
the ribs,
yeah.
but they feel very bare bones.
Yeah.
The 12 to a degree, because that's just like that's almost the most basic iteration of Flyknit that they put on the Mercurial. So it does feel a bit like it. The 13 is a weird one, because I think it's a combination of, it does a good job of feeling quite stripped down, but it's actually very complicated. Like, and that's maybe the point at which they went, oh, okay, let's just do nuts things for no apparent reason. Like, the 13 was like this really, like, in-depth, complicated way of building the Flyknit to provide them with this amazing boot. And then from that point onwards, they were like, okay, we need to do that. So they start putting different types of layers of synthetic and mesh
crazy,
together. And then you could argue, you go back to, like, simpler with the upper material using the grip knit, which is just like this single this 3-layer system, quite simple. But everything else you've done around that has made the whole boot feel more complicated than it needs to be. If they'd have taken the concept of the 13 and gone with grip knit instead of the Flyknit, it would have worked.
Yeah.
Like,
Carver like Alpha would be a good replacement. Yeah, but I mean, Western brands aren't going to use Carvo. It's to their detriment, but they won't use Carvo. I mean, it doesn't seem like they know what it is.
Yeah.
And I'd argue, in this atmosphere of trying to save as much money as possible while making boots expensive as possible, they don't want to partner with, brands out, companies that they can't control.
Yeah,
they'd have to pay for it.
Well, this is probably one of the main reasons Nike moved away from Tajin. It is a
massive reason they moved away from Tajin.
Yeah, it's nothing to do with Tajin not being a great material that they might have continued to want to use. It's because it was too expensive to continue to do that when they can produce their own proprietary knit material, which is significantly cheaper. A material that not only were they using on football boots, but they use on everything. Like, they have Flyknit jumpers, they have Flyknit running shoes, they have Flyknit everything. So
they're really getting their money's worth from that R&D.
They are, because that's been around for a long time now.
Replace the air unit with the carbon shank. Just Adidas balled it up by losing the Carbotex from the X. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd argue the Carbotex has no place on the F50 now.
Yeah, but yeah, I would agree.
They could have probably figured it out.
There would have been ways to incorporate that, and I think I almost think that they maybe didn't realize this at the time, but planning ahead, you could have done a different sole plate on the F50 that was maybe a bit more aggressive with the Carbotex, and then kept the sole plate they're using, as much as I want the Gamba Tracks, kept the sole plate they're actually using for the Messi. because I feel like it suits very well on the Messi, and then the regular F50 would have benefited from something a little bit more aggressive. I'm not saying I don't like it.
Yeah.
It just would have been beneficial, and the Carbotex moving over to that, I think would have been very good.
Yeah.
Nice. Cool. So if you have any more questions,
ended up fixing everything.
We fixed it. Yeah, I don't know how we went from fixing Puma to fixing the Mercurial, but it happened. And welcome to the Football Boot Hour. If you've not been here before, this is how it goes.
We're triple the length of the boys this week, it seems like.
Well, it's one of those where we could have definitely had this done in a Football Boot Hour, but it seems that we got sidetracked massively, and this definitely happens more when we have a live chat to help us along. So thank you all for being here, for contributing, and for making us go wildly off track at any given moment. You know we love to do it. If you have any further questions, please do pop them down right now. Yuli, how do you fix the edge? You don't.
You don't. You take it around back.
Burn it with fire.
Tell your son that it went away to a farm.
But with that, please go and check out Andrew's review of the Yatagara shoe, his 2-year review. Head over to his Instagram also at Lockhart Boot Blog, and his Instagram, lockhartbootblog.com. I figured I'd do it for you this week, so it was like a little bit of extra. Would you like to plug my channel for me?
Please subscribe to Boot Wizard Boot Reviews. Become a channel member. Much appreciated. Black Friday's coming up, so that'll go crazy. But yeah, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys soon.
Thank you very much, guys, and we will see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Big shout out to Dr. Astute for becoming a member. Thank you. Bye.
Yay.